Last place. Yeah, you get last place. Nobody wants that trophy, right? Like nobody really wants that trophy until you're at church and you're talking about being in last place, right? All right, so a few years ago, I don't know how many years back now, Daniel decided one day, that's my son, decided that he wanted to look me up on Google, right? Because he thought like I'd be right there. And so he started looking me up on Google, and I was not right there. Like it was many pages before you got to me. So I want to introduce you to some of the Kirk Joneses that came before me, all right? So this is Kirk Sticky Fingers Jones, and he is a rapper who is a part of Onyx, if you've ever heard of them, all right? Actor and rapper, all right? And this is the next one. This is Kirk Jones. He is a producer and director. If you've ever seen the movie Nanny McPhee, he's the director from that movie. That's actually, my kids noticed it one day when the movie was ending and they saw Kirk Jones come up, like they paused it, and it was a big deal, all right? All right, and then the next one, if you look up Pastor Kirk Jones, you're going to find him. That's Kirk Byron Jones. And I know I've talked about writing a book, but he actually did it. And they're fairly popular books. And then there's this guy. I don't know who that is. Like, that's some boy who got lost along the way. We don't know what happened to him, all right? But then there's one guy, and this guy actually comes earlier in the list. But, man, I want to introduce you to this Kirk Jones. Man, this guy right here, he had some audacity in his life, all right? So in 2003, with no safety equipment, he went off of Niagara Falls and survived. Like, what? Much cooler version of Kirk Jones, you know what I mean? And then out of that, he became a circus performer because of the stunts he's willing to do. Now, that's not the end of the story. So I'm going to be talking today about audacity. And he had the audacity in 2017 to make a big inflatable ball and to go off of Niagara Falls again. Like, not only did he do it once, like, which everybody's like, that was crazy. He decided to do it twice. And unfortunately, he perished in the second attempt. He did not make it, but he had the audacity to do it. Like, I mean, there's just some people who are willing to do some things that I would never ever do, right? Like, and maybe because I'm smarter than him, but but man, when it comes to faith, man, there is some audacity along the way. And today I want to talk about what that looks like and how that is healthy. So in this Last Place series, what we're talking about, last place is the best place when your heart is in the right place, all right? So God has called us not to be served, but to serve. He came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. We're going to actually study through that passage together today. And here's the thing. He's called us to serve. He's called us to take the place of the least, to take the place of the servant. And here's the thing. That is a great thing when your heart is in the right place. But, man, when your heart gets in the wrong place and you're serving, all of a sudden you're looking around. Instead of seeing the things you're serving in, you're seeing all the things others are not serving in, right? Instead of honoring the Lord with what you're doing, you start looking around and finding all the people who aren't honoring the Lord in the things that they ought to be doing, right? And all of a sudden the heart has hardened, and this place is not a healthy place. It's not a good place, but it should be. It ought to be. But here's the thing. The heart is the wellspring of life, and we are taught to guard that heart. And we have to be willing to do that. But there's a few principles we've been learning through the book of Matthew over the last decade and a half that we've been preaching through it, I think. And so here's what they are. It's this. It's a kingdom upside down. It's a kingdom upside down where the first is last and the last is first, where the greatest is the least and the least is the greatest. It is a kingdom of reward, not a kingdom of return. You do not do for the Lord because you expect this from the Lord. You do for the Lord because he is worthy of all that you would do, and you trust him to reward you. That you're not storing up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, but you are storing up for yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. And so out of that, we're continuing in Matthew chapter 20. We're going to be in verse 20. Now, some of you are really keeping up, following along verse by verse as we go through Matthew. You're thinking, well, you just skipped over a few verses. Well, we've already preached through those when we were talking about all the times that Jesus predicted his coming death, all right? So Matthew 20, verse 20 says this, "Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee," that's James and John, "came up to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, what do you want? She said to him, say that these 2 sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your kingdom. Jesus answered, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup I am to drink? They said to him, we are able. He said to them, you will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. All right, and then the 10 heard it, and it says this, and they were indignant. They were mad. So let's walk through this story a little bit, because I'm going to be honest, I've always kind of missed something in this story, something I've never really caught before. You hear this story and you typically go, man, that lady asked a request she should have never have asked. I mean, what a ridiculous request. Like, that's not even mine to grant. Like, man, he's calling her out a little bit on seeing things. But actually, if you watch and listen to the words, it says this, she came before him and she knelt down before him, honoring who he was. And then it says that she had something to ask him, and then he asked her, what do you want? Like, she came before him humble enough, and she didn't just throw her request out there. It seems what she did, she knelt before him and asked him if she could ask him. Like, can I come before you with a request? I mean, she was humble before him. She had a request. Now, then she asks her request, and it's audacious, right? Like, I want my 2 sons to sit at the most honored places in your kingdom that is coming, right? Now, first of all, you have to understand, they still didn't understand what kind of kingdom was coming. Like, they were still just thinking an earthly kingdom, right? Like, they weren't seeing what God was really doing, okay? And so, but she asked this, and he says, man, can you drink of my cup? And then I love it, like, the sons say, yeah, we can. Like, it's like this just seems going wrong. And he actually says, well, you can drink of my cup, because they would. These are men who would lay down their life in the service of Christ, literally would perish for the faith, who would give their lives as martyrs for the cause. But then he says, this isn't mine to grant. And then the other 10 disciples, they don't even like that the question got asked. You know why they didn't like it? They wanted that spot. How dare you be asking for my chair? Like, let's get down to the real. Let's get down to the real, okay? That's why they weren't happy, because somebody else was thinking that they deserved what they thought they deserved. All right, now let's finish what Jesus has to teach them from this. Man, Jesus can turn every moment and teach from it. And this is what he says. But Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. By the way, this word Lord includes the word kurios, which is the Greek word for Lord. It's kind of like a verb part of that it would be the type of leadership or of authority that operates from position and not really as a person. Like, they're just position based. And I have the authority, I have the authority, I have the authority, right? It's not caring about the people, it's just the position that would come in this kind of authority. And it's even doubled down on in the wording that he uses next. He said, the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Man, I love this end, that he came to give his life as a ransom for many, to pay the fullness of price. A ransom is a price, and we don't even really understand the concept of ransom, but it ties to some words that are used right here. There's 2 words that are used here. There's the word for bondservant, and there's the word doulos there, which is used for slave. And there's 2 types of things here. Slavery was different in their day and culture in many ways, and that often people had sold themselves into slavery through debt, right? That they had borrowed money and they chose to work it off over an amount of time or in the earning of a certain amount of money. And actually in the law, there was a way that if you had found yourself as a servant, as a bond servant, as often said, of a gracious master, and you were serving in their household, the way the law was written, that there were certain years and times where everybody had to be set free. There was times and places where freedom came for everyone, no matter the debts that were owed, okay? And so like maybe you came to that time, you could choose to go to a doorpost and have a cowling put through your ear, declaring that you were the bondservant of someone. And sometimes people would choose that because what they would say, it's better to be a part of this master's household than to be on my own. He is a good master, a loving and caring master who provides, and I'd rather be a part of his household than be on my own. And so that's coming out of their culture here. But a ransom is a price that is paid for someone's freedom. So if a bondservant or a slave was to be free, when it wasn't one of these times where just freedom was given, there was a ransom that had to be paid. And it had to be paid in full. And Jesus Christ came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for the multitudes, is what that word many there means, for the multitudes. And so the first principle that we need to learn from this passage, I think we need to learn from the mother, and it's this: audacity is healthy. Audacity is healthy. She goes and puts her request before the Lord. She asks him. But why does she ask him? Because he's the one that has the authority to answer. When we have great faith, when we ask audacious things, when we believe that God will do more than we could ever ask or imagine, it is not our asking that changes. It is the one that we ask. We ask something big because we believe God can do something big. It's not about our belief. It's about the one we believe in. It's not about our asking. It's about the one we ask of. Are you asking the Lord for that which you need? For that which you desire? Are you asking the Lord that you might serve him and steward in ways that are different? Are you believing? Because it's about believing who he is, and audacity is healthy because he's worthy of audacious requests. He's worthy of the faith. He's worthy of the trust. That we would be people who have this healthy faith. It actually comes from a healthy posture towards authority. I mean, this woman so honors the Lord. She kneels before him and asks him if she can ask. Audacious faith shows what you believe about the one you ask of more than what it shows about what you believe about your asking. But I want to warn you with something real quickly, something that can get unhealthy. And maybe some of you have even been taught this, that the reason you don't have is because you don't have faith. And I'm going to tell you this. It's not your ability to believe that will change the situation. It is the one that you believe in that changes the situation. It's not yours. It's his. Now, there is an ending of us that we would trust him like that. I trust you. And if I really trust you, I trust you when you say no too. When I really believe in you, I trust you when you say later, when you say not right now, when you say not that way. I trust you. Audacity is healthy when it comes from humility. To have this humble view towards asking and the one you ask of. The Lord is worthy of some big requests. Like he's worthy of it. Sometimes we're not careful. All we ask the Lord for is, Lord, keep us safe. You know, maybe we ought to be saying is, Lord, put me in places that aren't safe so that you can receive glory and honor and praise. Lord, make all things good. Lord, put me in whatever circumstance you need that you might receive glory and honor and praise, because I believe you're good no matter where I'm found. Lord, have everything that I have, that you might use it for your glory and honor, because you're worthy of it. That we would trust him this way, that we would have the audacity to ask what is beyond our own imagination. Lord, that you would do more than we could ever even think to ask you. And then there's this shift. He takes it, and now he teaches on leadership. So real quickly, I just want to spend a little time speaking on healthy kingdom leadership. And the first principle is it's responsibility before authority. It's the responsibility before the authority. Man, if we're not careful, we fall in love with authority. And God's called you to fall in love with the responsibility He's given you. If you're serving the Lord, He has entrusted you with something. Be found faithful with that which He has entrusted you. Honor Him with it. Love the responsibility, not the authority. Healthy leadership is not measured by authority, but by responsibility. You know, when I teach in pastors' conferences, and like I do a lot of those in Africa, or if I spend some time with other pastors, I'm finding the opportunity and privilege sometimes to speak some things into helping other staffs have some health in their leadership. And one of the things that I challenge people to consider is all the titles that are found of leaders in the church. There's people who are calling, people are called apostles, and people are called bishops, and people call themselves prophets, and Scripture, there's this word overseer, which is the word for bishop. There's this word for elder, which doesn't get used much. People don't like calling themselves old, I guess. And then the third one is shepherd. And the one that is used consistently about the leadership that is found in the church throughout Scripture is the title for shepherd. And I believe that is because it is the one that speaks to the responsibility instead of the authority. And if you want to operate in the authority, it's because you're being faithful with the responsibility. That's where it comes from. Man, when we get these things backwards, it gets very unhealthy very fast. Don't fall in love with any authority God gives you. Fall in love with the responsibility God has given you. That He has entrusted you. Just like the parable of talents, like whatever it is that you have, whatever it is that God has put you responsible for, be found faithful with it because He's worthy of it. Like honor Him with it. And remember that it's all from Him. That everything you have, that everything you do is the result of His grace and His blessings in your life. That it's responsibility before authority. I just want to go through a few quick leadership principles that I think this speaks to as we consider this passage. These are things that I teach. The first one, and we got to make sure we understand the wordings here, but it's good to be great when you understand what great means. This great here means significant. And I would tell everybody in this room, you know what I hope you do? I hope you pray and ask God to make you significant in someone else's life and faith. That you would seek to be significant. I pray these, like this is some things I hope for all of you. When we talk about being bringers and keeping it real, looking alive, and helping others experience that, to bring them along with you. I hope this is true of all of you. I hope somewhere along the way in your life, as you serve the Lord, that you become a part of somebody's testimony. That when somebody shares their story, they say, there was this person. I met him at work. Our friends played ball together. God put us in the same neighborhood. And they loved on me, and they showed me who Christ was, and they lived out their faith. And I am who I am today because they were great in my life. And that's what it means. And it's good to be great. Don't be afraid of that. Ask for that. Seek that with your life. Seek that significance. Because greatness here doesn't mean in charge. It means in service. It's good to be great. Leadership is about character and competence. You got to be good at it, what God calls you to do. Psalm 78:72 says this about David. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart and with skill of hand. If you want God to use you, you need to be constantly developing and growing in character, but you also need to be constantly developing and growing in competence. If God calls you to do something, be good at it. He deserves your very best. Get better at it all the time. He deserves for you to serve Him well. He deserves for you to serve Him with your very best. He's worthy of that. But it's both character and competence. And here's the danger. I teach this fairly often, and this is why I think it's important. Is competence wins when you're on the rise. Like somebody who's good at something, whether they're a good person or not, and if they're good enough at it, they can build a following. They can grow something. They can make something happen. But I tell you what, it's a lack of character that always leads to the fall. Competence will get you there. Character will keep you there. And if you want to serve the Lord, you have to be a person who actually desires to serve the Lord. You know, there's a lot that's out there in the business world today about servant leadership. And I want to give you a warning real quick on it. Like, oh, I love reading that stuff. Servant leadership is not a tactic. It's a spirit. That you would actually choose to serve. And you're not doing it just so people will follow you. You're doing it because it's the best way to live your life. That you be found as a servant of others. That we would desire to have the character that's required. And then the last one is this. It talked about this lordship, this authority, and it's this. The one who is controlling has yet to begun leading. The one who is controlling has yet to begun leading. If you're in charge of something and you're always controlling it, you haven't even started leading it. Control is not leadership. It's not about control. Parents, God's given you leadership and stewardship over your kids. Some of you are in their way. I mean, when they're small enough, you have to control everything. They need you to do that. They would not survive. But at some point, you have to trust the Lord enough to trust them. Did you hear the order of that? You got to trust the Lord enough to put some trust in them. Because you're never going to control them to faithfulness, but you can lead them to it. Man, we have to be careful that we don't live this life where we're just like the Gentiles and we lord it and we exercise authority, but man, we never set anybody free to really glorify the Lord. This is who he's called us to be in serving. And then here's the last part, just a spiritual principle that's really important for us. Our souls need to serve. They need it. You need to serve. The heart is deceitful and wicked above all things. Who can know it? And it will get you in trouble, the heart. You know, people often give you advice. You know what you need to do? You just need to follow your heart. You need to quit listening to that advice. You will follow the heart to all kind of horrible places. You need to lead your heart to the altar of the Lord. You need to guide it there. You know, if you don't have a spirit where you can be a part of something, God can't really use you to be in charge of something. Like if you're not humble to just take a place, then you can't lead. You know, our hearts need our hands to help. Like our hearts need it. Like it's part of who we are. Like God created us this way. You know why that's true of us? It's true of him. He came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. You need it. Your soul needs you to keep serving. Here's what I mean by it. No matter what you attain to, whether it's in the business world, whether it's in politics, no matter whether it's in sports or on a team or in some activity that you're a part of and you rise up in it and you're successful in it, it doesn't matter if it's in the church, whatever it is, man, your soul needs to keep serving. Your heart needs you to be a person who can still help with your hands, who doesn't always have to be seen as the person in the lead or in charge or the person at the highest spot. Your soul can't carry that. You're not capable of it. You will crumble under the weight of it. You have to stay a servant. Your hands need you to do it. Your heart needs your hands to do it. You know, every once in a while, there'll be an event, and I'm just a helper at it. Like, I'm not in charge. I'm not doing anything at it. And I'm just helping it. One of the things is the bigger we get, the more here, oh, Pastor, don't do that. Like, if I'm taking out trash. Not too long ago, I was taking out some trash, and they're like, Pastor, man, you don't need to be doing that. And I was like, get out of my way. I need to take out the trash. My soul needs me to serve. And if the only place I ever serve here, I've lost my place. I had a pastor years ago, after a big event, I was at a big church. I saw the pastor up and pick up the chairs, so I started helping. And somebody made a statement to him about picking up the chairs, and he said this: the day I'm too important to pick up the chairs, I'm no longer qualified to speak to the people who sit in them. That was 15, 16 years ago. I remember that. Like, I don't even have to write that one down. It is stuck with me. Serve. And here's why you serve. Because the one you serve is worth serving. Quit looking around and trying to figure out whether what you're doing is worth doing. It's who you're doing it for that's worthy of it. Quit measuring what everybody else is doing. And serve the Lord. He's worthy of it. You know, one of my favorite things as a pastor is to be at an event here where I don't say anything and I don't do anything and I just get to help. You know why it's one of my favorite things? Because you're so good at it. I love you. You serve the Lord well. I want to make sure as your pastor, I say that often enough. I think I get to pastor the greatest people in the world. You have a servant's heart and a servant's spirit. I think this is true here. I do. And I want to say thank you for that. It's an honor and privilege to shepherd such people. But man, may we never lose it. So no matter what God blesses us with, when he puts something before us, it's just to serve him with. Because he's worthy of serving with it. Because he came to give his life as a ransom for many. And some of you are sitting in this room and you still need to be ransomed. You're living in the bondage of sin and of death and of the grave, and you need to put your faith and trust in him because he's worth the trust and he's worth the faith, because he who is the highest took the place of the lowest and gave his life as a ransom for you. So we want to offer you a quick opportunity to respond to that today. So what we're going to do is we're about to sing a song. While we're singing, if you need to talk to somebody about what it means to put your faith and trust in Jesus, we'd like to have that conversation with you. I went a little long, so we're gonna sing quick. So like if the Lord's speaking, you need to be moving, all right?